It is February 11th, 2026. I'm going to do another letter from W.E.B. Du Bois. This one is going to President Woodrow Wilson. Let's just go ahead and do the background and we'll get started. When Woodrow Wilson ran for president in 1912, he vowed to advance the cause of African Americans, who were primarily loyal to the Republican Party. I hope you all know your history, that at one time black folks did support the Republican Party instead of the Democrats. They were Dixiecrats and they believed in segregation, especially in the South. That's why we didn't support Democrats way back when. Okay. I'll continue with the background. Wilson's promises won him the endorsement of W.E.B. Du Bois, again, who lived 1868 to 1963. He was co-founder of the NAACP, and among others. However, by the time Wilson sought a second term, many African Americans were wary of his conservative racial policies, including his administration's imposition of complete racial segregation in Washington, D.C., and in government offices. Sounds familiar? In an open letter published in The Crisis, which was the NAACP's journal, Du Bois asked Wilson to address publicly the epidemic lynching of African Americans. In 1916, there were 54 recorded lynchings of African Americans. Now for the letter. At the top it says New York. It's dated October 10th, 1916. To the President of the United States. Sir, as an organization representing the Negro race and thousands of their friends, we are deeply interested in the presidential election. During the last campaign, believing firmly that the Republican Party and its leaders had systematically betrayed the interests of colored people, many of our members did what they could to turn the colored vote towards you. We received from you a promise of justice and sincere endeavor to forward their interest. We need scarcely to say that you have grievously disappointed us. We find ourselves again facing a presidential campaign with but indifferent choice. We have waited for some time to gather from your writings and speeches something of your present attitude toward the colored people. We have thought that perhaps you had some statement or explanation which would account for the dismissal of colored public officials, segregation in the civil service, and other things which have taken place during your administration. You must surely realize that if Negroes were Americans, if they had a reasonable degree of rights and privileges, they need ask for no especial statement from a candidate for the high office of president. But being as they are, members of a segregated class and struggling against tremendous prejudices, disabilities, and odds, we must, for their own salvation and the salvation of our country, ask for more than such treatment as is today fair for other races. We must continually demand such positive action as will do away with their disabilities. Lynching is a national evil of which Negroes are the chief victims. It is perhaps the greatest disgrace from which this country suffers, and yet we find you and other men of influence silent in the matter. A republic must be based upon universal suffrage, or it is not a republic. And yet, while you seem anxious to do justice toward women, we hear scarcely a word concerning those disenfranchised masses of the South, whose stolen votes are used to make rotten boroughs of a third of the nation, and thus distort and ruin the just distribution of political power. Caste restrictions, fatal to Christian civilization and modern conceptions of decency, are slowly but forcibly entering this land and making black folk the chief victims. There should be outspoken protest against segregation by race in the civil service, caste in the public travel, and in other public accommodations. As Negroes and as their friends, as Americans, as persons whose fathers have striven for the good of this land and who ourselves have tried unselfishly to make America the land of just ideals, we write to ask if you do not think it possible to make the colored and white people of America some further statement of your attitude toward this grievous problem, such as will allow us at least to vote with intelligence. We trust, sir, that you will not regard this statement and request as beyond the courtesy due you or as adding too much to the burdens of a public man. We beg to remain, sir. Very respectfully yours, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, W.E.B. Du Bois, Director of Publications and Research. This was written in 1916. But just like the other letter from Mr. Du Bois, it could be written today in 2026. Just a reminder, this is Letters from Black America by Pamela Newkirk. Fascinating, fascinating. And again, thank you, W.E.B. Du Bois. Rest in peace, rest in power, rest in heaven. Job well done, my friend. That's it for today, y'all. Bye.